Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for July 29th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. It's going to be hot, steamy, and just flat out disgusting, making me wish for fall. But anyway, it is Tuesday. That means it's time for a little motivation / positivity. Brought to you by the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. Go to clashingconferences.com to see how you can join the network and get involved. Always something fun going on. This podcast, This Day in Philly Sports History, is a proud member of the Sports Fan Network. So go to clashingconferences.com, see how you can join today. All right, so this one, I saw this come up a couple times this week, so I'm like, you know what? It's a sign. And as typically, and I don't know if my radar goes up as I'm kind of always thinking about the podcast and ideas and things like this, but a lot of these things speak to me. So I don't know if they're like signs that somebody is saying, hey, you need to do this, or specifically like I'm willing it into existence or whatnot. But this came up a couple times. Seneca is credited with this quote, but we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And you probably have heard different things about this. We had a mantra in my fraternity about the anticipation being worse than the actual thing itself. And we've touched on things like this before. But sometimes we make our own problems, or we make things worse than what they have to be, or take something that really isn't that bad and make it a catastrophe. And I heard this word a few weeks back on the midday show on WIP, but it's almost like we catastrophize our problems and our issues. We exaggerate the potential negative impacts or the outcomes of whatever we're dealing with. And while we should be prepared, and I kind of live by, you know what, expect the worst, hope for the best. I don't think that is what this is saying. I think you always have to be prepared for all scenarios, but that worst case scenario, or the worst, 9 times out of 10 is not going to be as bad as you think it is. And a lot of times it is that anticipation of something happening that really gets us all worked up and worried and nervous. And it's 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100, it's worse than the actual outcome. And it takes away from us being present in the current moment. And I think that is kind of my key takeaway from this quote about suffering more in imagination than in reality is be prepared, but don't let the worry or the anticipation of what could be, or that catastrophizing of your expected outcome, take away from your preparation. Trust in your preparation. I mean, I know it's funny because of the way it's worked out, but I'm a big believer in trust the process, not what the Sixers did, but just trust the process. Trust that you're going through it. Believe in yourself, believe in your preparation. And just remember that most times we can't control what's to come. So we don't know what's going to come. So to sit there and worry and make it a catastrophe when in reality it's probably not, it takes away from you enjoying the moment, and focus on solutions. And again, be prepared. I'm not saying don't prepare for like a worst case scenario, but don't wallow in what could be if it's going to take away and make your preparation lacking. Don't let your imagination run wild on you, because we suffer more in our imagination and more there than what we do in reality. And just remember, it's going to be okay. Trust your process. Trust what you have done to get to that moment. So I thought that was good. It kind of sticks with our theme of not necessarily dwelling on the past or dwelling on what could be. But we kind of have a thing in my family where it's one day at a time. Nothing you do can bring back yesterday, and tomorrow will get here when it gets here. So focus on today and don't let your imagination run wild. So hopefully you can take that through your weeks and get something out of it. Like I said, a lot of these, I don't plan the Tuesdays ahead. It kind of is the ebbs and flows of my life. And for whatever reason, this came up a couple times in the past week. So I figured, hey, why not share it with all of you? So we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality. Take that through your weeks as you go on and be productive, be positive, and get motivated. All right, let's do some quick housekeeping. As you can see, if you're watching on video, rookie mistake yesterday. Kids were messing around in my office, messed with the focus and the zoom on my camera. Didn't even think to check that. But here we are, back in clear. Rookie mistake. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, @PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word as we grow this. If you are a new listener, welcome. We are glad to have you. We finish up the regional finals today in our tournament. Final four will be tomorrow and Thursday. And to just make it an even, clean break, we will do the final on Friday. So that means you'll have all weekend to vote. And then starting on Monday, we'll start our top 5 for the first 25 years of the century. Looking forward to that. And of course, don't forget Friday. We always spend Fridays with AI. Hopefully, we're breaking down a big Phillies trade. Speaking of the Phillies, I don't even know what to say. Just a horrible, embarrassing, pathetic loss yesterday. No way you should be losing to the Chicago White Sox 6-2. No way should you be only getting 6 hits off of that team. Can't put that one on Sanchez. I mean, Sanchez was not his typical self. But, I mean, your starting pitcher gives up 4 runs and you manage 6 hits. That's pathetic. That's embarrassing. And this team, for whatever reason, gets up when they play the Yankees, gets up when they play the Red Sox, gets up when they play the Dodgers. Can't do a damn thing against the likes of the Pirates, the White Sox, the Rockies. For some reason, they struggle against the poor teams. And I don't know what that means moving forward to the rest of the season and into the postseason, but you can't be losing this game. So, I mean, we move on. Jesus Luzardo's on the mound tonight. I almost would go as far as saying this is a must-win game. You cannot lose 2 out of 3 to the Chicago White Sox, especially heading into the trade deadline. I don't know. Trade deadline's in 2 days. So many rumors. It's hard to keep up. Guys are getting knocked off of the list. The closer for Cleveland now is or not suspended, but on paid leave for allegedly gambling. Suarez from the Diamondbacks got hit in the hand last night. It's going to be brutal. They need to do something. So, Dave, the ball is in your court. The other big story yesterday was Bryce Harper versus Rob Manfred. The story was leaked and came out that went toe-to-toe with him and said, get the F out of our clubhouse when he started talking about a salary cap. And I'm kind of torn on this. And typically, I think a lot of the owners in all of the professional sports are just greedy and are trying to maximize their dollar. And I get that from their standpoint. I also get the player's standpoint. Like they don't want a salary cap. They want to be able to earn as much as they can. However, for every Bryce Harper, for every Shohei Ohtani, for every Juan Soto, for every Aaron Judge, there are like 5 guys that are just journeymen, the guys that come off the bench, the guys that are just trying to make a name for themselves. Where do they fit in? And I do agree that there needs to be a salary floor. It's an absolute travesty what's happening out in Pittsburgh. They have probably one of the most beautiful stadiums in the league, any sport, and they're penny pitchers. They do not keep their players. They don't pay their players. Paul Skeens is going to be out of there soon. O'Neal Cruz is likely going to be dealt at some point, and it's a travesty. So I do think there should be a salary floor. And I'm torn on this because salary cap means that the players are capped with really what they can earn, but it is getting to the point where it's out of hand. And I don't know. I'm not a salary cap expert. I don't claim to be. I'm not an agent or anything like that. But there has to be some happy medium in there. But I mean, I guess kudos to Bryce for standing up. But I just kind of question whether or not he's representing all the players or like the top 5-10% who are making big money, and those little guys that really do the grunt work are the ones that are going to get left out. So we'll see how that plays out. But that was a big story, and I don't know. I mean, good for Bryce for standing up, but again, something needs to be done. I don't know what that is. I don't know whether it's a salary cap. I definitely think there needs to be a salary floor because it's an absolute. You look at teams like the Pirates, the White Sox, the Rays, and they don't spend money, and it's absolute. The Marlins, it's absolutely just it cheapens the game. I think. I mean, yeah, you kind of. It works out well for the Phillies because they're able to spend more than most teams, but at the same time, I mean, I know a lot of people who are Pirates fans, and it's not fair to them. So we'll see how this plays out. The current CBA, I guess, ends after next season, so it should be buckle up. I feel like it's going to be a bumpy ride. Some sad news with Philly ties. Ryne Sandberg passed away. He was battling, I believe it was pancreatic or prostate cancer. I want to say pancreatic, and passed away last night. So condolences to the Sandberg family. You know, Ryne Sandberg was manager after Charlie Manuel for a few years here in Philly, kind of given almost an impossible job when he took over. We still had those high expectations, and he was given an aging team with not much help coming up from the minors. Did well when he was managing down in the Phillies minor league system. As many of you probably know, he did get his career start with the Phillies, was traded in 1982 along with Larry Bowa to the Cubs for Ivan De Jesus. And the rest, as they say, is history. As Ryne went on to have a Hall of Fame career in Chicago, but Ryne Sandberg passes away last night, so sad day. With obviously he was way more known for being a Chicago Cub, but did get his start with the Phillies, managed here for a few years as well. So condolences to the Sandberg family. All right, some Eagles news, and there's not a lot. They're practicing in pads today, so it's always fun to see them. Not a ton of major injuries, which is good. It's been kind of quiet, and I've been saying since camp started, a quiet camp is a good camp for the Eagles. Some standouts from what I've been reading, and I get asked this a lot. And since I'm not at camp, I scour all the guys. Like I have my core, like 4 or 5 guys, and including the Philadelphia Inquirer, where kind of see what's been going on and make my report on that, so you don't have to scour the internet. But Moro Ojomo apparently has been impressing early in camp. Adoree Jackson took more first-team reps yesterday than Keely Ringo. I still feel like somehow there's going to be a move that Howie's going to make. I don't know whether it's going to be for corner or safety, but I do think maybe give them through the first preseason game and then see how it goes from there. But very quiet camp, which I will 100% take quiet over what's happening in Dallas. Jerry Jones, I feel like every time he opens his mouth, something stupid comes out. So, Jerry, I will pay your medical bill to go to the Cleveland, the Mayo, whatever clinic you want to go to, because we need you around for as long as possible. Jalen Hurts has a new Sprite commercial. I don't know. pretty good, I guess. Which I find this hard to believe, but thinking back, it's mostly NBA players who are sponsored by Sprite. Jalen's one of the first NFL players to do it. It's a good commercial. Talks about just the hate and rips the guys on ESPN, which is always a good thing and fun. But that is the Eagles update, the Eagles news. Not a lot, which is good, but good to see Moro Jomo playing well. I still think, like I said, there's a move coming in the secondary. I don't know what it is yet, but it's coming. All right. Yesterday's trivia question, in honor of Harry Kalas getting inducted into the Hall of Fame back in 2002, I asked you, excuse me, what future pro basketball Hall of Famer did Harry Kalas take over to become the voice of the Phillies? And that would be Bill Campbell. Bill was the voice of the Eagles, the Sixers, the Warriors. I don't know if he did any Flyers, but the Phillies. But he is in the Basketball Hall of Fame for his work with the Philadelphia Warriors. And the bonus question, what team did Harry come from? That would be the Houston Astros. He came from Houston, coincided with the opening of the Vet. He stayed there his entire career. Was the last guy to pull a number down. So Harry Kalas, the voice of the Phillies, took over for legend Bill Campbell when he came in 1971. Want to show off your Philly pride without saying a word? Philly Goat has you covered. From tees, hoodies, shoes, and hats, their gear screams Philly louder than an Eagles fan at the Vet. Whether you're tailgating in South Philly or trying to flex down the Jersey Shore, do it in style. Hit up phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery, and get 10% off your order. Philly Goat, because being Philly ain't a choice, it's a way of life. Go Birds! All right, July 29th. Lots of walk-off moments here for the Phillies. Let's first go back to 1984. Phillies beat the Expos 6-4 when Len Matuszek hit a two-run homer in the bottom of the ninth in a game in which Juan and Von Hayes led off the game with back-to-back homers. I believe it was the first time in Phillies history that they led off a game with back-to-back homers. Von Hayes added another solo shot in the fifth. Larry Anderson, during his first stint with the Phillies, came in and blew the save, but Kevin Gross got the win as Len Matuszek was the hero, hitting a two-run shot in the bottom of the ninth to walk it off for the Phillies as they beat the Expos 6-4. And then we go to 2021. Phillies split a doubleheader with the Nationals. They lost Game 1 3-1, but won Game 2 11-8 when Brad Miller hit a walk-off grand slam in the bottom of the eighth. More on that in a minute. But Miller was only playing in the game because Bryce Harper was having back spasms. Phillies fell behind 4-0 in the first inning, and then Christopher Sanchez just was not good on this day. He only pitched a third of an inning. Phillies were down 7-0. Now, how do you have a walk-off grand slam in the eighth inning? Well, in 2021, they were still playing COVID rules where doubleheaders were 7 innings. They did that to kind of mitigate in case players missed time for COVID and things like that. So the doubleheader was only 7 innings. Phillies did come back to tie this game in the bottom of the seventh, and then Brad Miller was the hero in the bottom of the eighth. It was the Phillies' first walk-off grand slam in extra innings in team history, even though it was the eighth inning. So Brad Miller walked it off on this day in 2021, and then Len Matuszek walked it off on this day in 1984. Phillies win both games on this day in 1984, and then in 2021 they split the doubleheader with the Nationals. Some trade deadline moves, though, on this day. Very active day. Is today the day that the Phillies make a move? Lots of craziness happened on this day. Lots of big-time moves for the Phillies. 1983, they purchased the aforementioned Larry Anderson from the Seattle Mariners. Played a big role down the stretch in getting them to the World Series against the Orioles. Then in 2002, they traded away Scott Rowland, basically because he didn't want to be here anymore. So they traded him to the St. Louis Cardinals. And then Ruben Amaro Jr. was extremely active on this day. 2009, he brought in Cliff Lee. 2010, he brought in Roy Oswalt. And 2011, he brought in Hunter Pence. Dave, That's what you need to do. You need to channel your inner Ruben Amaro, who was very active on July 29th. So, Dave, as I said earlier, the ball is in your court. And then there's a bonus signing on this day due to the NFL lockout. Free agency started a little bit later. And I remember this well. I was at my brother's bachelor party down in Ocean City, Maryland. Phillies traded for Hunter Pence. And then all of a sudden, the Eagles made an announcement that they signed Nnamdi Asomugha in 2011 as well. Unfortunately, we all know how that turned out. They mixed opinions on that, whether or not Asomugha was a system player in the Raiders system, whether the Eagles tried to force him to be something he wasn't, whether he was overrated, whether he even wanted to play football at all. But a big day in 2011. Hunter Pence and Nnamdi Asomugha both signed or traded to the Philadelphia teams on this day in 2011. So again, Dave, it is your turn. And Howie, wouldn't be a bad time to make one of those under the radar signings that you do in training camp. Just throwing that out there. All right. So sticking with the trade deadline theme for today's trivia question, who did the Phillies acquire in the Cliff Lee trade? They traded some prospects to the Cleveland Indians for Cliff Lee, but who came along with Cliff Lee to Philadelphia? Stayed with the Phillies for a little bit, played a big role in that 2011 stretch run as well. So who came over from Cleveland with Cliff Lee? Hit me up on any of my social media with that. Discord channel is live. First link in the description. Come over. Let's talk some Philly sports on a hot, steamy Tuesday. Don't forget the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Get any of your thoughts and Philly sports burning takes off of your chest on the Back to the Future voice and text line. And then don't forget, I put highlights up on my social media. It's been coming out a little bit later as I'm still toying around and figuring out the new platform and everything. But that's all available on social media, including my LinkedIn and Facebook. All right. I mentioned this earlier. We are finishing up our greatest season in Philly sports history regional finals today. Yesterday, it was Wilt Chamberlain knocking out Moses Malone. So Wilt from 61-62 when he averaged 50 points a game, scored 100 points in a game, averaged 48 and a half minutes. That is the top moment in Philadelphia basketball history. Ironic that the Sixers region was won by a Philadelphia Warrior. Just kind of threw that out there. And we crown our final champion today for the regionals. This is the Eagles championship. And this one's going to be another tough one. Saquon Barkley is the number 1 seed, taking on Reggie White, the number 2 seed. Saquon last year, we all know how it played out. Over 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, added 2 more receiving touchdowns. Pro Bowler, All-Pro, Offensive Player of the Year, averaged an outstanding 125 yards per game. Went over 200 yards twice, both against the Rams, once in the postseason, once in the regular season. Added almost another 500 rushing yards in the playoffs, including 5 touchdowns as the Eagles win Super Bowl 59. Taking on Reggie White in 1987, who was just dominant. 21 sacks in 12 games due to the NFL players' strike. Pro Bowler, All-Pro, Defensive Player of the Year, added 4 forced fumbles and a touchdown. So much like the Phillies, we have the greatest offensive season in Eagles history versus the greatest defensive season in Eagles history. Which one do you go with? I mean, I'm torn on this one. I mean, if you add in team success, I think you have to go Barkley. But from a pure statistical standpoint, there's no way Reggie White. It's one of the best defensive seasons ever in the history of the NFL, let alone Eagles or Philadelphia sports history. So who do you got? Saquon from last year, Reggie from 1987. Get that vote in any way you can. Back to the Future voice and text line, Discord channel, social media. Get it in. Text me, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, Pony Express, whatever you got to do. Get that vote in. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this. Leave a comment, review, rate it, all that good stuff. Let's outsmart the algorithm as we're trying to grow this thing. Don't forget, the Eagles pregame show is coming soon. Hopefully I'll have details on that within the next coming weeks. And then don't forget, it's still summertime. If you're going down to the Jersey Shore, go to beachcaddy.app, use the promo code Jimbo to take 15% off your move-in, move-out service as well as your beach cart rental. But beachcaddy.app, promo code Jimbo. Take the stress out of your Jersey Shore vacation. But get that vote in. Get the vote in before you go to Beach Caddy. Saquon from 2024, Reggie from 87. Man, tough one. Phils were active on the trade deadline on this day in 2002, 2009, 2010, and 2011. What does Dave Dombrowski have up his sleeve? Be refreshing Twitter every 5 minutes today, looking for rumors or any kind of nugget or tidbit I can. On this day in 2021, Brad Miller hit the first walk-off grand slam in extra innings in Phillies history as the Phillies won Game 2 of a doubleheader against the Nationals 11-8. And then in 1984, Juan Samuel Von Hayes led off the game with back-to-back home runs. Len Matuszek in the bottom of the ninth hit a 2-run homer to give the Phillies a 6-4 win over the Expos. We'll have more updates from Eagles camps as they come in. Obviously, we're going to be monitoring the trade deadline all day today, all day tomorrow, and all day Thursday. Final four of our tournament starts. Big things happening here on this day in Philly sports history. Don't forget the trivia question. Who was the guy that came over with Cliff Lee from Cleveland in that trade in 2009? Who was it? Positional player. I'll give you a hint on that. A positional player. Don't forget as well, we suffer more in our I'll get it right. We suffer more in our imagination than in reality. So don't focus on the doomsday, catastrophizing, worst case scenario that could happen. Live in the moment and trust your preparation. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for July 29th, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Tuesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.